Hey guys, how's it going? I got a new deck video for you. This is a deck that I've created over the last week or so. Posted a couple teasers in the Marvel Duel Discord. So those of you that saw that and have been messaging me, this is the final iteration of the deck. I've changed this deck probably a dozen different times. I've tried tons of different variations. This one seems to be the one that works the best. And so I'll go through very quickly to show you the core cards, the cards that I've tried and have changed. So hopefully you guys don't mind me rambling quite a bit here. But I'll go through here. So Photon Force Field. This is awesome late game. It's not like a must-have, like I wouldn't craft this or anything, but if you have them, definitely use them in this deck. Because late game, Hela, when she's like 1 or 2 or 300 power, just her hitting several times over. And not only that, I run 4 Hydra Bombardment, so she's just hitting the Hydra Bombardments 2 or 3 or 4 times in a row. And then the splash damage of the 1 or 2 or 300 power is being hit on each side, so it literally can board cleared late game, which is fantastic. 1 Nega Bands. This is important. I'll go into that later. Only 1 Miss Marvel. And then these are more or less filler, but I'm trying to avoid putting cards that have keywords in there because I rely on Rallying Cry late game sometimes. So even though these are filler cards, I want to avoid putting keyword cards. So that's why you have random items and tactic cards and stuff that I'm not going to use. Is because I don't want Rallying Cry to pull them. So this is important. Only run 3 Ghost Spiders, not 4. Because you want to have a 2-star and a 1-star on the board. And the reason that is because this deck revolves around Hela. And for each defeated character on the battlefield, she gains +1 or 2 or 4 power permanently. And so when these die, there's a token. So if I only have 1 4-star here, then there's only 1 token. Whereas if I had a 1-star and a 2-star, then there's 2 tokens on the board. So, and then I'm running 4 Mysterio suits on top of all the guard cards that I play. So I recently started running 4 Silks. And the main reason for that is there are some games where I do not get a Hela early enough to snowball. And then I end up getting like 6th or 5th place. And it's really frustrating. And Hela is the only win condition. So I have, once I added Silk here, I almost always get top 3 now. With the trade-off being that sometimes Hela doesn't pop off early enough, but to get top 3 as often as I do now, I think it's worth it. Very important that when you have Hela on the board, you make sure that Nega Bands are placed on Silk. Because obviously you want Silk to ramp up with all the other guard cards, but you also want Silk to die before Hela does. So that's why the Nega Bands are really important to be placed on Silk. And obviously Web Snare is broken. So yes, run Web Snare. Mysterio is a late game pivot. If there's like a whole, like an ego, there's an ego on the board, or something that's totally unstoppable, then I'll just start stacking a bunch of Mysterios and then hope that the RNG wins me. This is just a throwaway card. I don't want another keyword card in the deck in case Rallying Cry, because I want Rallying Cry to target Silk or Hela. Well, that's more or less it for the spider deck. Alright, so the Hela portion, I recently started running just 1 Hush Now. If you are not using Power Recruitment, which is the extra card for the first 3 turns, do not run Hush Now. You need to run Ulick instead. I just find that this is such a game changer for If Hela is just the last one on the board, but it's not her turn, this Hush Now does a great job of stunning the opponent and then making sure Hela's Maverick triggers. So I find that it works out quite well. The first iteration of this deck, I was running Kid Loki, and I absolutely loved it. However, because Kid Loki does not have guard, very often the other opponents would suicide into the big Hela instead of the Kid Loki. So even though Kid Loki is pumping out so many illusions, it's very inconsistent for Hela to proc her Maverick. And the whole point of this deck is for her to pop her Maverick. So I'm not running Kid Loki anymore. Actually, I'm running 7 League Boots instead, because I'll put it on Hela, and then it just lets all the other tokens die on the board before Hela actually attacks anything and takes damage. So it's pretty great. Hell Crown is actually really broken on Hela too, late game, because you have like 10 or 20 different things that are dying, so it can add 10, 20, 30, or 40 power alone. It's fantastic. Late game, Searcher, Power of the Gods, pretty standard. I have Hela in here as a pivot if I need it, but really you don't. Neutral, Ghost is pretty standard. That's meta. I'm running Hydra Elite Soldiers, just one, just as another card with guard that could die very easily. But that's kind of just preference. I'm only running 1 Taskmaster. Before I was running 4, and it was fantastic because you'd throw Nega Bands on him, and he would just get tons of value. The downside is the first iteration I had 4 Taskmaster, and I was actually running 4 Sandman, and they would do so well that like those 2 cards alone would win me rounds. And that's not the point of the deck, because that would screw me late game, because obviously the Hela wouldn't trigger her Maverick. So I went down just to 1, as you kind of get the free reroll, and then an early game card that could die and help Silk out. But I usually end up selling it pretty quickly. 4 Hydra Bombardments. This is core on the deck. You need all 4. This does a really good job of disrupting Cloak decks, disrupting the standard Grandmaster Hela decks. And not only that, this adds more characters to the board that end up dying that helps Hela's Maverick. So this is core. You need 4 Hydra Bombardments. Obviously 4 Resolute Assaults. And then the new M'Baku is actually really good for decks that have 1 high-powered card. The reason that is late game, I definitely try to get this in case somebody plays one of the cards that'll shut down, like Explosive Trap or Widow's Aim. This will actually dismantle that card before Hela attacks. So this is actually a really good tech card to put in your deck. I have a Juggy Helm late game for Hela, and a second one in for M'Baku. It's not required, but it's nice to know that you're not going to get Thanos snapped or something like that. Rallying Cry is great because it can get both Silk and Hela, and if you're trying to hastily do a late game pivot, it'll pull Mysterio as well, so that's really important. Hyperion is also a great late game card. Sometimes if you can get a guard item, just throw it on Hyperion, and when Hyperion dies, he spawns even more guard characters, so that's nice. And obviously Thanos is Thanos, so. Sorry, that was very long-winded, but I probably played 100 games with that deck, and so many variations of it that I'm sure we're gonna have people like, why don't you use Kid Loki, or why don't you use this? And I was like, well, this is why, because I've tried and I've played 100 games, and this is the final variation of the deck that I came up with. So real quick, we're gonna go and look at this replay of a game that I just played.
Hello? Anybody home?
Now, Big disclaimer, the meta is going to change drastically next week with the new Iron Man rework. So I wouldn't go out and like craft 4 Helas or anything. But if you happen to have like all 4 or even 2 Helas, this is a fun little deck to kind of play around with. I like it a lot. It does a really good job of getting top 3 a lot. And if Hela pops off and you can handle the explosive traps and stuff like that, Widow's Aim, I get first, quite regularly. But I do have the occasional game where like maybe 1 out of every 3 or 4 games I'll end up getting 4th. Which is a little annoying, but that's kind of just the way this RNG meta is kind of going towards. Also, Agamotto Mystic is still the king of ladder. That's why I've stopped grinding ladder. So that's really annoying to play against. So this is a fun deck. I really enjoyed it quite a lot. So we're gonna go ahead and fast forward it a little bit here. I'll slow it down later on just to kind of go over my thought process of the cards that I'm buying. Yep, now I'm picking up the guard cards. Frost Giant.
Time for me to be a hero.
I think I pick up the Mysterio suit here. Yeah.
Who dies first?
So I'm kind of laying the foundation for what the deck's going to be.
Let's do it again! This'll be a walk in the park.
Hail Hydra!
So here's where I pick up the 2-star Silk and the Hela with 7 League Boots. Okay, so Hydra Bombardment, Mysterio Suit, Silk again, and then there's the Nega Bands for Silk, which is great. And the 2-star Hela, which is crucial. It's kind of unfortunate when you're Silk, you start getting more Silks than the Helas, because I'll say that's not the point of the deck, but Silk is so strong anyways that she does fine. So, like I said, it does a good job of getting top 3 because both Silk and Hela are 2 separate win conditions. Oh, something I didn't go over. If you're against Heimdall, this deck does so bad. Because all these tokens are just going into Heimdall over and over and over. And it triggers it several times over. It is horrendous. So if you're going against an Asgard deck that you think has Heimdall, you're going to want to put Hela in the first position and a different item other than 7 League Boots, because you want Hela to kind of take out Heimdall before it's triggered several times over. So here I was able to trigger the Maverick. Wasn't enough to win the round, but that's fine because now we're starting to snowball Hela, so that is totally fine. Found another Hela. Found my 3rd Ghost Spider, which is great. Also found a couple more bombardments, and then my Hush Now, so that is fantastic. So fortunately, because I had Silk in the first position here, I was able to take out the Heimdall without too much devastation. I don't mind Silk dying as early as she is, because if she gets too big, sometimes it'll throw off the Hela proc. So that's totally fine. She did her job. So this is looking pretty good to trigger the Hela passive, I hope. Nope, it gets sniped by Throg. Okay, that's unfortunate. But you can see how everything, all the tokens and everything that has guard, does a really good job of trying to isolate Hela into being the only one left on the board in combination with 7 League Boots. Alright, so I found my 4-star Silk, which is great. I think I roll again and find the 4th Hela as well. Yep, there it is. So I think I sell off. Yeah. So basically, this is the core of the deck right here. After this happens, I try to get to shop 5 as quick as I can. And then I kind of hang out there to try to fish for my M'Bakus and Juggy Helms and Resolute Assaults. This is interesting. The Doc Ock has forgot the name of it, the one Spider-Man card that makes him attack 6 times. So this could be interesting. Thankfully, the Hush now triggers. And so now Hela's Maverick pops. I know it seemed like I was going to lose this round because of that. Because of how much power they had, but I actually ended up winning it just because of the Hydra Bombardment spam. And then Hela hitting the Hydra Bombardments and not taking a whole lot of damage, but doing the splash damage. I noticed that he's also running Explosive Trap too, so it's really important to fish out the M'Bakus. There I find the Juggy Helm. Hang on to it for another round to try to help maybe get another Maverick trigger on the Hela. Basically, the whole point of the deck is just to have a bunch of incredibly weak cards with guard that will die very easily, and then Silk with guard, and then Hela with 7 League Boots. So that's more or less the entire point of the deck. It does really, really well. Quite enjoy it a lot. So I passed over M'Baku. I think I pick him up here. So I swap out the 7 League Boots, and then I dump all of the Photon Force Fields on Hela. And it just chains together so nicely with all the Hydra Bombardments, as you'll see in this next round. Here's kind of the late game positioning now, which is the opposite of the early game pivot or positioning. So it takes out the Heimdall and the Odin, which is huge. Had I not done that, there's a potential of me losing here. And then you see it just keeps hitting the Hydra Bombardments and does the splash damage to the board. It's so broken. It's pretty fantastic to play. And that's a first place finish.
Let's do it again.
Yeah, majority of the game,
Now that
just
felt
stay
pretty
on
good.
shop 3 and fish out the Helas and the Silks and the Hydra Bombardments and all your tokens. And then enjoy winning. Thanks, guys. Please like and subscribe if you want more videos. Thanks.